like now kids are wearing Uggs and Crocs every day, and so for me, I kind of had to learn like, man, I have to think outside the box and realize that brands are really marketing to these kids to try to, make them long-standing customers the same way they got us, but they're a different breed, man.
Welcome to What It Is, the show that explores the art of sneaker culture. I'm your host, Adam Butler, back with another episode. Thank you so kindly for being here. All right, man. Dope show. My man, Front Page Aaron is in the building, man. Had a great conversation with him. We're going to get to that in a second. But before that, we're almost at 100 subscribers, y'all. I know. It's a bit. I'm proud. We're almost at 100 subscribers. So help me get there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel, okay? Hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and spread the word, man. We got something going here. We're starting something, man. We're starting something cool, all right? Hit the subscribe button. Do all of those things, man. I appreciate you, all right? So, Front Page Aaron. Really cool guy. Cool sneakerhead, cool sneaker content creator, and he's an educator. He joins the show to tell his story. And we just talk about sneaker content creation, sneakers in general. We talk about it all. It was a really, really great conversation. It's really cool meeting new people on this show, meeting other content creators, because I get some of the best conversation from them, man. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. My man, Front Page Aaron is in the building. Let's go. What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's good, man? I'm thankful for being here, man. Thank you for having me, and grateful we can make it happen.
Same, man. Same. I'm a fan of yours, bro. I like what you're doing. And before we kind of get into your story, I want to give you flowers. I'm bigger to giving people their flowers in this game, man. Because I think, just why not, right? One thing I really like about your content, you kind of represent, and I want to say this the right way. I hope it doesn't sound, but you represent like an evolution in sneaker culture in my mind. And the reason why I say that is that, the game had been so associated with like kids for a long time.
Yeah.
Kids, you know what I mean? Young, kid, the tastemakers are always like very, very young people. You're still a young man. I'm not calling you old. You know what I mean? But like myself, I relate to people that are like have the same kind of experiences as me, or I can even tell you have the same kind of experiences as me. You kind of represent a lot of people on camera. You're an educator, you know what I mean? And like, so these things, you really do represent like where I think sneaker commentary is and should be going, and who the audience for a lot of sneakers is, man. And you're doing a really good job of that. Also, I wanted to tell you, I mean, I've been wanting to tell you this. Your lighting is like extraordinary on your video.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like every time I see him, like, your lighting is like top notch, bro. Really good. Yeah.
I appreciate it. My wife hates it though. She's like, man, you
Really?
have way too much stuff. No.
Nah, man, nah. You do not to go against wifey. Trust me, I
Yeah.
understand. But I think you, I like what you're doing, brother. So let's jump right into it, man. Let's talk about you. How did you get into sneaker content creation? What motivated you to get started with that?
Man, it came out of a love for sneakers initially, right? I think I grew up wearing sneakers. My story is a little different than most people in that I grew up with a single mom, but she, the way you dressed and how you were, you represented her. And so she always wanted to make sure that we were in the best shoes, in the best clothes, that we were well dressed. And so my mom really introduced me to shoes, and it was with her like every month she knew when the Jordans were coming out. And so she would take me and my little brother to the store. And so I have a lot of memories of like, hey, the Jordans come out tomorrow. We're going to go to the store after you get out of school to get you the newest pair of Jordans. And so me and my little brother, man, like we were growing up around the time that like the 12s and the 13s and the 14s were coming out. And so I remember, getting Obsidian 12s. I remember getting like, Bread 13s and stuff like that as a kid. And so it just was normal to me. And then I had a god brother who was also heavily into sneakers, and as I was growing, he would just hand me down shoes, and I remember getting boxes of shoes from him.
Yeah.
So it just always was a part of my life. And then when COVID hit, I have to give a shout out to my brother. When COVID hit, he was like, "Hey man, have you ever watched Full Size Run?"
Mm.
And at that time, Full Size Run was still going, and it was kind of a big deal. And so I watched a couple episodes because we had been really into sneaker YouTube, and we're watching like the round two videos, and we'd watch sneaker collection videos. Back in the day when they would do sneaker collection videos, we'd watch those. And we watched round two a lot. But then he was like, "Hey, have you ever watched this? We could do something like this, man. Like we know enough about sneakers, and we have enough experiences in sneakers
Mm.
that we could do something like this." And so that really was my entry into sneaker content creation. We got a show together with a friend, and then we started having guests on, and kind of through the height of the pandemic, and then we got on Clubhouse. I don't know if you remember when Clubhouse was popping, and
I do remember Clubhouse. Yeah, yeah,
and we was on there every day talking sneakers, and that's how I
yeah.
met a lot of people. That's how I met Haas and some of those people. But um so that's kind of it. I kind of took on the role. I've always been like into video and photography, and so
Mm,
my job on the show was kind of to create all the digital assets and clip the shows and kind of post on our social media.
mm.
And then once my cousin ended up getting the marketing job at Solomon, and so he just had a little less time available, I decided, hey, why not keep this going by myself? And that's kind of when you saw the transition to front page Aaron. So that's kind of the long-winded way of how content creation became a thing for me.
Yo, you touched on a lot of cool things, so I'm going to try to take them one at a time because you said one. The first thing you said was your mom's got you into sneaker culture. That should not sound really odd, and odd is not the right framing
Yeah,
necessarily, but it should not sound be surprising. But it is surprising. That is a different sneaker story because usually the story is I couldn't get them when I was younger.
yeah,
My moms couldn't afford them, so when I got old enough, I was able to blah 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 blah. But you said your moms are saying that you looking good represented her, and I
yep,
think that's a really interesting take. And I want to get to your how your show manifests because I think that's interesting too, especially that pandemic piece. But what do you think about that concept, right? Of like you represent the kids, represent the family, so they're gonna look good. Like it kind of reminds me of that look good, feel good thing. Like it's like your mom's taught you that early. Am I correct in saying that?
yeah, absolutely. And it's not like we probably couldn't afford to get most of those shoes, right? Like we lived in a basement in Brooklyn,
Mm,
and and so we had our struggles. She's a single mom of two kids, but for whatever reason, she felt it important that we look good and represent it. And so I think for her, it's just I think it was a little bit of pride in her that like, hey, we may not have a lot, but my kids dress well and represent me well.
mm,
And I think for her is a little validation of her job as a mom, even though that
yeah,
she didn't need that, but I
yeah,
think it was one of those ways that she felt validated as a mom when we would be outside and people will compliment us on how we dressed, or like, hey, oh, you have the new Jordans, and I think it made her feel good, even though we didn't have a lot. That was the one thing she could provide for my brother and me. And then interesting enough, my mom, we had an upstairs neighbor, and my mom would buy her Jordans too. So usually
mm,
she'd come home with 3 pairs of Jordans,
yeah.
so that she could gift it to the upstairs neighbor who was really close to her as well. So it was just one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. One, and it's, your mom sound like a great person. And two, do you? I would imagine that mentality is stuck with you, right? It's like a confidence no matter what thing. It's not materialistic or anything like that. It's just like here's always have confidence no matter what your circumstances may be, right?
Yeah, man. No, you're hit it spot on. I think for me, it always just it was like that sentimental piece that even though if you don't have a lot, like
Yeah.
sneakers is a way that you could relate to other people, right? And I think because it often comes from like a place of struggle, right? Like all of us at some point had to sell multiple pairs to fund some life event.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that part of it is like we appreciate having the shoe a little bit more. And for me,
Yeah.
it was like I know that it was a sacrifice for my mom, and there was other things she probably could have done with that money, but
Yeah.
for her, that was how she taught me to have more self-worth and to really care about my appearance, even though for some it may seem shallow. For her, the message was, hey, always look your best, even if you don't have it all together, or you don't have it all, you can always look and represent yourself well.
That's excellent, man. I love that. I love that. So you talk about the pandemic and you guys started to show up. You know, the pandemic comes up a lot in sneaker conversation, usually with when regards to the sneaker boom and the bubble
Yeah.
that eventually has popped now. And some people think that's a good thing. Some people aren't too happy about that,
Yeah,
right?
I'm not too happy.
Yeah. But one thing I do think that was great about, well, nothing was great about the pandemic,
Yeah.
but what what came out of us sitting down and learning how to use these tools, these virtual tools and stuff like that. It's like a lot of content creation came out of that, right? Myself, I've been podcasting and doing this for a very long time, but I really love the boom that happened, and I really love the boom of sneaker content creation that happened during that time. Where do you think? Do you think that the boom again of sneaker content creators, whether it been on Clubhouse at the time or Twitter Spaces, right, or X Spaces, whatever you call them, or live streaming, Twitch, whatever, YouTube, whatever, right? Do you think that that has had any impact on how the brands look at sneakers in general and how they approach the audience now that the audience has more of a voice and a say so in what they like or dislike?
Man, that's a really good question. I think I want to make 2 points
Mhm.
that came to mind as you were asking that question. The first one is whether pandemic or not, I think naturally sneaker communities were moving more to this online space because I don't know how it was in your area, but it felt like in my area that organic, Facebook groups were really good in
Mm.
creating or cultivating sneaker communities in our areas, right? They kind of gave everyone a platform to connect with people. And then once Facebook groups kind of became more buy sell trade almost exclusively and less community, it
Mm.
almost felt like we were in a need of a space in order to connect with other people that had the same passions as us. And so the pandemic, I think, just accelerated that and made it so that more people were willing to get on and share, their feelings and thoughts on sneakers and connect with people that appreciated it. Um, but I also think just a personal example is my cousin got the job at Solomon because someone was listening into our conversation at on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And so we would
That's
have yeah,
yeah.
we would have people, okay, like very, very often hop
Mm.
into some of those rooms and ask us questions as the consumer, as people that knew about sneakers, because they'd hear the detail and the depth in the conversations we were having. And
Mm.
so brands kind of caught on and said, all right, well, these are the people we really need to be asking these questions to because they're the ones that have been around 10, 15, 20 years and have seen the trends, have seen what the average consumer likes. And so, yeah, brands definitely had to start paying attention. And I think they do. I think, regardless of your following or how many people you think you're influencing, I think brands are smart enough to know, like, we need to tap in and see what the creator economy is producing because these are the places that people go to hear opinions and to be influenced in a way. And
Yeah.
so if we're not listening to what's happening in those conversations, we're gonna fall behind or we're gonna miss out on something that we should really be considering.
Yeah, for sure. And with the boom of content creators, and that's a great point you made. With the boom of content creators, like, there's been a lot of conversation about like why are people in the
Yeah.
game, right? A lot of debates. One happened recently, shouts to Kari, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Talk about like getting seeded and things like that, right? And why some people were in it for, hey, if I could do this, maybe I'll get a bunch of free sneakers and maybe I'll be on this panel and maybe Nike will do this or whoever, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have people that argue like, no, you need to be doing it for the love of the game, but also you should have been doing this since 2008 or whatever sneakerhead deems is like the proper amount of time someone should have been a sneakerhead and been very vocal about sneakers. To
Yeah.
me, the truth lies in the middle. Obviously, I think people get into, and tell me what you think about this. I'm People get into the content game, yeah, for fun, but also they want people to watch their show. They
Yeah.
want something from it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is why you cut on a mic and you invest in all this stuff. You want to feel some form of recognition for what you do, whether that be from a brand or from the audience or whatever, right? But also, obviously, the majority of what you do this for should be authenticity and love for the game. Um, just like there's been a sneaker boom and bust, right? Do you think there will be a sneaker content creation boom? If there was a boom, is there a bus coming for people that just gonna go, you know what, all right, I've done this long enough. I haven't gotten a free pair of Jordans yet, right?
Yeah.
Getting me a sneaker yet. I'm done with this. Do you think it'll just like kind of naturally weed itself out and the real will, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I
Yeah.
think you hit on a lot of good points. I think and Kari did in his sneakers or his stories too. Like for a lot of people, this is transactional, and you see it, and a lot of people do get in their feelings about it, right? And I think they have a right to. I feel like people that have put in work and have been around this industry almost feel like they should be the ones reaping the rewards that
Mhm.
come from it, right? And so it is a little bit of a feeling of there. I do see people that feel a little resentment when they see someone who maybe has been in it a little less time get recognition and get brand deals and get seated pairs. And I think naturally we as people are like, hey, I've been true to this. Like I've been loyal to this game. I've put in, tens of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
into sneakers over the course of my life,
Yeah.
and you almost feel like you need to get a reward from it. But I do think that as we kind of get rid of like the um, resale resale creators, right? The people that really got into this, and that was part of the big boom. Was like a lot of people wanted to see the very casual audience, like I paid $10,000 for this mystery box, like come see what I got.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of those people moving away from creating content in sneakers because that's slowly disappearing, right? Like they're not able to resell and make a ton of money or teach other people how to resell.
Right.
I do think there's going to be a bust, but I do think, like with anything, those who are loyal, those who are true, those who really appreciate the game, are going to stick around. And I do think opportunities present themselves to those people, whether they come in the form of being seeded pairs or they come in the form of just building connections. For me, that's always been my biggest reward, is just building genuine connections, because those connections could do more for you than a pair of shoes will in the long run, right? And so, um, but I do think there's going to be a bust, and I do think, unfortunately, some people that are, uh, OGs in the game or have been around a lot are going to get, are going to be filled with resentment and feel
Mm.
like they were owed some things. But
Yeah.
I think if you just keep the main thing, right, which is you love sneakers and you love talking about sneakers, then
Mm.
um, and don't let yourself get burnt out. Like there's sometimes it's, I mean, you create content and you've seen the ebbs and flows. There's sometimes I'm not the one with the crazy following or anything, but there's sometimes I post a reel and it gets 30,000, 40,000 views,
Yeah.
and then I'll post one and it gets 500. You just
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I try to just keep the main thing the main thing. Like I love sneakers. I love connecting with people that love sneakers.
Mhm.
And so for me, whenever I've been inactive, it hasn't been because of a this love of sneakers, just life, and I think that's also something that that'll play into effect. People just naturally have life. But I do think we're gonna see it, and I do think we're beginning to see it, right? Like once those opportunities in sneakers go away, it's not easy to stick around when it wasn't your true love in the first place.
Facts. And you touched on something I want to get to in a minute, which is just life and where your life
Yeah,
goes. Because I started to show off by saying like, oh, I relate to you, and there's other creators too that I can look at, and they're working people, they're family men and women, and I
yeah,
think that's like a good representation. Because like I didn't do a show last week because I couldn't. I had work and I just
yeah,
literally just could not get a show done. It just to me it was like I could throw some crap together really quick, or I could do a replay, take an old interview and piece it together and stick with the algorithm and have a show out. And it could be bad,
yeah,
right? Or I could just wait because I just don't. And I think that's, to me, I felt authentic in that. Like, I'm
yeah,
not going to just do this just because I need to chase the algorithm. People listen, they listen. You know what I mean? And you talked about connections. I think that's a really dope point because, you know, I've been seated before, not in my not as a sneaker podcast. I was doing some fashion writing for BuzzFeed
oh,
years,
nice,
and I would get like clothes and sneakers like this, nothing crazy, but like I would get stuff, so I know what that's like. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool, it's great, it feels wonderful, right?
yeah,
But the What Are Those show, the biggest, to your point, the coolest thing about it is meeting people like you, like Haas, like
yeah,
you know what I mean, like all of these people, the Terrence I just interviewed recently, like all these really cool people that I can talk about this hobby that I have, right? that I can, I don't have people like in my,
Yeah.
a lot of people in my life that just want to listen, want to hear me talk about like, the bread 85s and why the shape of the 85 is different than the regular. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's the cool piece about it. And I agree with you 100%. I want to get to talking about you and what you have going on. Again, because you talked about life, right? And
Yeah.
you are an educator, and I think that's really cool. Um, Talk to me about how that might blend you being a sneakerhead, but also dealing with students. Like, what's that like?
Man, it's a blessing for sure, and it kind of gives me unique insight.
Mhm.
I think as a sneakerhead, you can tell that the loss of collecting or there's been a loss of that real passion for sneakers, right? I think
Mhm.
um for me, I'll wear shoes that me and you will recognize and be like, "Oh, those are dope," or like, we buy a silhouette that we think is comfortable and is dope and we rock it. And the kids, they appreciate that I have sneakers and that I have a love for sneakers. But I think there's that disconnect to where I see kind of an insight into where the industry is headed, right? And so it does help build that connection with the kids, but then also jades me a little bit as a sneakerhead, as a purist, as a
Yeah,
truest to this, that I'm like, oh man, you don't know what these are, like what? You tell me you're a sneakerhead, you tell me you love sneakers, but
yeah,
all you ever ask me is if I have these Jordan ones or these Jordan fours, and so I really think that it helped me understand that we are a lot more niche than we appreciate or realize as sneakerheads.
yeah,
Um, excuse me, you have the average consumer that'll buy a Jordan 4 or Jordan 3, but the people that take the time to really learn about shoes and stuff, it's
mhm,
very limited and very few. And so when we're having these discussions online about shoes of the year and things like that,
yeah.
10 out of 10, most of the time, like this new generation, these teenagers and these early kids in their early 20s haven't
Mhm,
even heard about the shoe, right? Like I could go in and ask my class, "Hey, did you guys see the new J Tip shoes?"
yeah,
And they'd have no idea who I'm talking about. So like there it really is a disconnect in sometimes where we see the sneaker game and that's why I think to bring in another point where I think sometimes the disconnect comes between sneakerheads and brands, right? Like we feel as purists and truest sometimes that we have the insight and we do. We know the target market. Like we know brands want us as sneakerheads because we're the return customers. But when we're thinking like sneakerheads, we don't realize that the brand is also trying to appease these people, these students, these kids that are 15 to 18 years old that are going out and buying shoes or getting their parents to buy them shoes, and they're not buying what we're buying or what we want, right? Like right now, I don't know how it is. I think you're in the DMV area, but like I don't, but like now kids are wearing Uggs and Crocs every day. And so for me, I kind of had to learn like, man,
mhm,
I have to think outside the box and realize that brands are really marketing to these kids to try to, make them long-standing customers the same way they got us, but they're a different breed, man. Their trends move so quickly, right? Like we were always anticipating the next Jordan, right? We had like a tie to Nike.
yeah,
They're like, "Yo, whatever I see on TikTok that's hot right now, Imma get that." And then the next thing that's hot, Imma move on to that. So, like, we've literally seen in the last year them go from Asics 1130s to Sambas to
yeah,
Crocs to these Uggs now that they're wearing. And so, you have kids wearing Doc Martens to school and, like, loafers, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, now that's
yeah,
a thing. And
yeah.
so everything moves so quickly with them, man.
Yeah, it's so different. And I've had a couple of guests come on the show, and we always get into the marketing conversation. Nike's not marketing like they used to. And there's truth to that. You know what I mean? It's funny everybody's so annoyed by the band 85 marketing when it's like, well, y'all
We
wanted to
wanted this, yeah.
market the shoe. Like I just, so a lot of us are kind of crotchety and old, and we
Yeah.
just kind of, and it's just like any fandom, nerd fandom, Star Wars, whatever. It's like what you really want is to be 14 again, and you want to
Yeah.
feel that feeling, and you'll never have, and that's okay, right?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? It's just I'll never feel like I did. I won't ever feel like I did when I saw Jordan play in the flu games, like for real,
Yeah.
right? I was a kid. I won't have that feeling again. You know what I mean? So it's just like
Yeah.
some things are just like I'm banking a lot on nostalgia, and that's cool. Also, not just kids, because it's right. You're right from your perspective as like dealing with young people, right? But it's also like I get it. My boy Paul Span, we always kind of laugh at like how many like Jordan 1 mids we see walking on the
Yep.
street, right? And like in our world, like you know
You're
what I
like,
mean? But it's
oh
like,
man.
yo, I would imagine that like the Jordan 1 mid, I don't have this number. This is probably, I don't know if it's true or not, but like the Jordan 1 mid probably makes a lot of money for
Oh,
Jordan Brand.
a ton.
That's the one that people just go into the store and go, oh, green and yellow shoe, green and white shoe. It's a Jordan. I want it. Bang, 6 rings. People buy, like, you know what I
Yep.
mean? And like us sneakerheads, we could be kind of snobby and like, oh, you got those 6 rings. But like to that person, I got on a pair of
Yep.
Jordans and they look good. You know what I mean? That's
Exactly.
piece to it, you know? So you're right. We're very, very niche. Um, and it can be frustrating as sneakerheads, especially like you say, as an educator, you want the kids to feel like they knew the histories of the only thing I wish for them, and what I wish for sneaker culture moving forward, if it's going to last another 50 years, right, is that they start to have their own stories
Yeah.
within sneakers in their own moments. I don't know how that happens. There's no way for me to know how it could happen, how a 14-year-old, what could resonate with a 14, 15, 16-year-old. But I hope it happens for them because that's what we had, you know?
Yeah, actually, I'll give you a little insight. I'm dropping a video tonight. I don't know when this is dropping, but the night of our interview, I
Yeah.
just finished editing a video talking about that. I don't know if you saw like Matthew Welty put out a tweet and then Kari like quoted the tweet and said something like the basis was it like Nike needs to start giving this generation their grails
Mm-hmm.
and shoes that they can appreciate moving forward because they're not really drawn to what we consider grails, right? Like the Wu-Tang Dunks don't mean anything to a 15-year-old kid or 18-year-old kid like they
Yeah.
did 25 years ago to us, right? Like
Yeah.
they don't mean the PlayStation Forces coming
Yep.
back don't mean
Galaxy
that much.
phones.
Galaxy foams, like they weren't
Yeah.
there in 2012 when,
Yeah.
this was like or they weren't there for the height of the foams like we were. And so
Yep.
I really do I really do agree with that. I think the closest that this generation has gotten was and it's unfortunate that he was ill is like the
Mhm.
Virgils and
Yeah.
the Travis Scotts, right? Like that's this generation's grail and
Yeah.
that backward swoosh. And so as much as people get annoyed with the amount of Travis releases, or maybe sometimes we're like, oh, we want to move on from the backward swoosh.
Yeah.
That's really the only product that's still connecting this generation to Nike, right? It's the off-white stuff and the
Yeah.
and
The
the Travis
collab.
Scott, yeah, the collabs. Other than that,
Yeah.
I mean, not a lot of them like on my manier, and those are more sophisticated
Right.
conversations that maybe our
Right.
generations and older can relate to. But you have a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid, like
Yeah.
they grew up on Travis Scott music, they grew up.
Mhm.
So that's really one of the few things tying them to the brand right now. And so as much as maybe we are like, yo, we were used to getting a new pair of Jordans every month and we want
Mhm.
something new, the
Mhm.
brand really is seeing it as like, yo, this is really the only thing right now that these kids are interested in. And,
Mhm.
you see them trying that with Fortnite and then giving Kai
Yeah.
Cenat his endorsement deal. And
Yeah.
they are trying to connect that generation, but it's just a different time. And I don't think, like you said, they got us hooked with nostalgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
This generation doesn't have that nostalgia. They didn't watch Jordan. They're so
Yeah.
removed from Jordan, right? Like Kobe and Bron are their goats, and then
Yeah.
in 5 years, LeBron will replace Michael Jordan in their head because that's
Yeah.
who they knew, right?
Yeah.
Just the same way that Jordan replaced Dr. Irving and some of those
Yeah.
and Magic
Yep. Yep.
and so they it's tough, man. It's tough, but um I think they're gonna figure it out, man. They always do.
I mean, I feel like they have.
Yeah,
We just don't like we just don't like their solution.
yeah,
It's
that's
just not
true.
talking to us. You know what I mean? Like I watched a stream recently, maybe like 2 weeks ago, and they were going off about the Travs and what's the big deal about the Travs, and all of them were about my age, and I understood it. I have a couple of pair of Travs sitting in here,
Yeah,
and yes, the Trav Jordan does get kind of boring after a while, and it does feel like autopilot. Like, do I really want this Trav, or do I feel like I just need to buy? And that's a grown man's way of thinking. I got
yeah.
responsibilities. You have responsibilities. It's different, and I don't listen to Travis Scott's music, so it
Me
doesn't,
either.
right. So it started with Ye. right? It started with Kanye, and like this is different. This is a musician that's the face. But to me, if you really think about it, just, we talk about collabs is what's keeping stuff alive. Well, they were collabs back in the day too. The collabs were different. It just was this is Barkley and Nike.
Yep.
Nike. This is Penny and Nike. This
Yep.
is Jordan and Nike. This is Grant Hill and Fila. This is,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Barry Sanders and Nike, Dion and Nike. So those are collabs. It's just that for us, the athletes moved the needle. We wanted to be like the athletes, so we wore their shoe. For the young kids, it's the artists.
Yep.
And I think it's smart for Saucony to work with J Tips,
Yep.
for Nike or Jordan brand to work with Travis Scott. And I think they should find more. That's just, if that's what works for the younger generation, these are their stories. I was at the Trav concert and he had on the Mocha, but that's a story for them. It's not a story for me or you,
Yeah.
but it's not about me. Like you said, the nostalgia gets us.
Yeah.
You got to move forward, and we may not like it, but it is what it is.
And you think about, like, I love that you mentioned all those athletes, like just even the dynamic of everyday life has changed, right? Like whether we like it or not, life was a lot more simple, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We sat down in front of the TV and watched the full game, right?
Yeah.
We sat down in front of with our family and watched these athletes play. We watched the baseball game, right? Like nowadays, everything moves so fast and we fill our days with so much that connection with the athletes isn't there, right? Because no kid is sitting down for 2 hours and watching an NBA game anymore or an NFL game, right? And so, and even like, so everything that they are attached themselves to are like mixtapes, right? Which is why now it almost is like high school players are more popular than NBA players, right? Like you ask someone and be like, hey, who's the number one, player in the country? They can probably tell you before they tell you what Giannis' stat line was, or, and they're watching mixtapes on YouTube and stuff. And NBA players aren't getting mixtapes, right? They're getting highlights, on ESPN and whatnot. But we idolize those athletes. And like you said, now it's like they idolize these artists, right? And not saying that we didn't. I mean, artists influence, like you think about Cameron and Dipset and the jerseys and what we had, but I do think we had a slower pace of life where we could appreciate things a little more, where they're just inundated with information and they have to constantly make decisions.
Absolutely. I mean, you're so right. There would be the NBA game of the week,
and
it would be the Bulls and the Suns, or the Bulls and the Jazz, and everybody sat down at 7:00 or whenever that game tipped off till about 9:00, and we'd watch that game. It wouldn't be there's 30 games on, you can watch all of them. Some you can watch on your phone. If Saquon Barkley played in the 90s, he'd be the biggest star in the world because they'd be showing Eagles games exclusively because of what he does, or Jay Daniels or whoever, right? And their sneaker would be popular, right? You don't even know what Saquon Barkley, but I think he wears Jordans. And I don't even know, and I'm a Commanders fan, and I don't even know what Jayden Daniels wears on his feet when he might wear Jordans too. So, it's just a different world. But where kids are paying attention to is Kai Cenat.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're going to Trav shows. Trav is on Fortnite. He's my son, who's 10 years old, soon to be 11, comes in singing songs and stuff and it's not like the usual suspect rappers you would think of. It's like an Asian rapper that on some anime he was watching, and he's singing the song, and I'm like, that's dope. So it's like there's just different ways. So a Kai Cenat sneaker, a Kai Cenat Air Max 1 is not going to move me at all. I can't watch shouts to Kai Cenat, but he's screaming hard. That's not for me. I'm not a young, you know what I mean? It's just different. And it's very smart for Nike and other brands to think ahead. And it may feel, but that's selling sneakers, right? Understanding, and this goes way back to the beginning, and we'll begin to wrap up here, about why I like what you do and what you represent. Remember I said that, I feel like you and others represent an evolution in sneaker content creation, because sneakerhead and sneaker collecting is a hobby.
Yep.
right? It's different than just being like, I like to wear sneakers because they look good, or I just sometimes I wear sneakers. Sometimes I'm a fashion person, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm doing this because Kai told me to. They still need to find a way to speak to the collectors and the sneakerheads, even if we are a small portion, just to keep our beaks wet, because we're the people speaking out. We're the
Yeah.
ones speaking for them. That's why the 85, I think the 85 marketing is pretty cool, because that's to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think if they did more of that, they would find a way to connect with the older audience and the younger audience with doing what they're already doing anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
1,000% agree. I think it's genius. I think their marketing, what they're doing, giving out citations and making it real, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a fancy commercial or a fancy ad.
Yeah.
Like they got people behind the scenes showing, getting citations at the Nike headquarters, and then it's a team affair, right? Like they have all their athletes up there shooting the commercial and being
Yeah.
part of it, and including them. Like, hey, would Travis be LaFlame, or would so and so be this person? And you're just like, finally, we're getting to full circle storytelling where we are talking about the impact, because truth be told, man, we don't know. There's a very good possibility sneakers aren't what they are today without the Jordan 1, the airship, right? Which a lot
Yeah.
of people confuse as the airship that was banned.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. Yeah.
um there's a good chance that we don't have what we love today without that. So
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt, man. Yo, Aaron, I could talk to you for hours, bro.
yeah, man. This is
Cool,
dope. I
man.
appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Definitely would love to have you back, man.
Yeah,
I think what
absolutely.
you're doing is cool. Before we go though, I feel like you got some projects. Have you got some stuff coming up? What's happening? What's next for you?
Yeah, man. I think I got a couple cool little things in the works, man. Just a little behind the scenes stuff. Me and 80 Sneaks are dropping a project coming soon. Everyone probably knows who he is and not me, so it's kind of interesting.
That's all
But
right.
we're,
Yeah.
yeah, we got a concept. We're both educators, and so
Mhm.
we got a show coming together that's called the Soul Lecture, and we're gonna try to infuse what we do as educators on the day to day into what we love in sneakers, and do something a little different. Um, we just felt like, hey, we could disrupt the space a little bit with this, and then I also have my own personal project that I'm looking to bring back. And so I'm gonna get back into writing. I want to get back into writing. I feel like it's a lost art right now, and you come from a professional writing experience, and so I just feel like other than a few sneaker sites and short blurbs,
Mhm.
we're not getting that storytelling in written form like we used to. So that's something I hope to revitalize, at least as a fun personal passion project for me. I love reading articles on Nice Kicks or Kicks on Fire, or we grew up in the forums,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that's something that I'm bringing back. And so hopefully, all in due time, like you said, life is busy. I just got done with grad school, and so
Congratulations.
thank you, man. It was a huge weight off your shoulder, right? And so no
Yeah.
more late nights doing homework. And so I've kind of taken the last little time to just recoup that time with my family,
Yeah.
because ultimately they come first. And so now I'm ready to get back into it. I have my little I like to put things down on paper. So I have
Mhm.
this book is full of just ideas and reels that I'm making. And so I have
Yeah.
about 6 or 7 in the clip that I need to drop. And so
Mm.
we're just working, man. It'll be good.
I love it. I love it. I love that. I think that what I feel like you're alluding to, the written words
Yeah.
piece. I think that's really dope. I'm so happy you brought up the thing with 80. 80 is the friends of the show.
Yeah.
When I saw you all promoting that, I was like, "Yo, that is cool as hell." I'm gonna be the first to tune in to that, man.
Appreciate that.
Best of
Yeah.
luck, brother. Best of luck.
Appreciate you. Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
in the next couple of weeks,
Mm,
we're working on getting it all scripted and shot. And
mm,
we're not in the same area, so it's a
yeah.
little tricky with filming and getting all the footage together. But we're gonna make it work, and hopefully it's something that stays around for a while.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it. The audience should definitely be looking forward to it, man. Aaron, thank you so much for joining me, brother. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it.
Yo, shouts to Aaron, man. Dope conversation. Dope dude, man. I follow him, follow all of the projects he's got coming up, man. A lot of great things going on with my guy. And we're definitely going to have him back on, man. Definitely. Okay, you know what to do. Follow me, MSR underscore Adam, MSR underscore Adam. Follow me. Follow the 365 Days of Sneaks Challenge. We rocking, we rolling with that when we get with that, my man. Check me out on the Lotus Snack Show. I was on that show the other night. Great conversation with the fellas, man. Looks like I'm going to be joining them on the panel at BlurredCon. I'm super excited about that. So, yo, man, a lot of things going on. And if you want to find out about them, follow me, MSR underscore Adam. Okay, you can check out Sneaks in the City. You can check out my TikTok for as long as that's going. And obviously, you can subscribe to the show from there and the channel from there. All right, remember to mind your mental health, ladies and gentlemen. Mind your mental health. Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourself mentally and physically, man. It's super, super important. Mind your mental health, okay? Mind your physical health. Get outside, get active, eat right, do all of those things, man. Love yourself. Take care of yourself. Do that for your boy. And never forget, and always remember to be great. I'm up out of here.